Hey guys, tonight, the fire is the only light you trust. It crackles low in a hollow cave, painting orange ghosts across wet stone. Beyond its reach, the dark smells of earth, rain, and fur, sharp, ancient, alive. Wind sighs through the mouth of the cave, carrying the echo of something hunting or being hunted. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. You'll need that fire too before the night gets colder. You feel the heat lick your palms, the smoke crawl into your throat, and the quiet breathing of your clan around you. Someone gnaws a bone, cracking it open for marrow. Another sleeps beside the fire, hand still gripping a stone spear. Outside, the rain hisses on mud, a steady lullaby older than language. The stars are hidden tonight, but their light still presses faintly against the clouds, like memory that refuses to fade. Soon, we'll wander through this world together, through the flavors of hunger, the taste of survival, and the strange wisdom of those who came before words. You'll learn what our ancestors really ate, what they feared in the dark, what they fought for, and how much of them still lingers in you. So pull your blanket a little closer, listen to the crackle of the fire, and settle in. History tonight begins before history even had a name. The wind never stops. It hums through grass taller than your shoulders, carries the scent of rain, smoke, and things that used to live. You feel it tug at your hair, drying the sweat on your skin, whispering across the rough scars of stone that once served as tools. There are no fences, no paths, only distance. The horizon looks enormous, unsupervised. It's a world that doesn't yet know it's being watched. You kneel by the riverbank, feeling the mud squeeze between your toes. The water is cold, almost metallic. Tiny fish dart through the ripples, flashing like glass. The sound of the current is the only constant thing, a heartbeat large enough to swallow yours. Somewhere nearby, thunder rolls across the plains, slow and heavy. The world doesn't announce itself, it simply exists, magnificent and uninvited. You pick up a rock, slick with moss. It fits awkwardly in your hand, heavier than you expect. When it cracks another stone, sparks leap out, small and perfect. Fire is still a miracle, something that shouldn't exist yet, somehow does. The smell of flint dust lingers, sharp as anticipation. You understand why your ancestors treated it like a god. It was the only one that ever answered. At night, darkness becomes physical. It presses against your skin, breathing alongside you. You can't see more than an arm's length away, but you can hear everything. Insects humming, the snap of branches, the distant low of something large and curious. Fear doesn't arrive with sound, it lives in silence. You learn quickly that quiet is rarely safety. It's just what comes before discovery. The stars spill across the sky like crushed salt. You stare upward, not yet knowing words like universe or eternity, but feeling them all the same. They shimmer against the black, reflections of fires that haven't gone out yet. You wonder if each one is another world, or maybe just another campfire far away. Either way, they watch you back, cold and unblinking. The smell of smoke always means safety. Inside a shallow cave, your fire dances low, licking the air. It smells of burnt hair and marrow, of wet moss drying too close to flame. The heat paints your face in copper. You feel alive and fragile in the same breath. Every flicker of firelight carves a moving picture of your life, raw, temporary, but somehow complete. Rain comes suddenly, drumming on stone. The air cools fast. Your skin prickles. Water streams through cracks in the cave ceiling, hissing as it meets the coals. The fire spits, angry but resilient. You pull your furs closer. The smell of wet earth blends with smoke, an aroma older than comfort itself. This is what warmth used to cost: patience and vigilance. You glance toward the mouth of the cave. Beyond the curtain of rain, the land glows faintly blue. Lightning claws across the horizon, showing you shapes that might be trees or hunters or both. You understand instinctively that survival isn't about strength, it's about timing. Even the strong die if they choose the wrong moment to move. When dawn arrives, the world looks freshly made. Mist clings to the grass. The air smells green. Every step leaves a print that feels permanent until the next breeze erases it. You can taste the minerals in the air, feel grit on your teeth. Nature doesn't care that you're here, but it feeds you anyway. You notice small things: a bird's call echoing across stone, the texture of bark under your palm, the way water sounds when it hits bone. These are your teachers. Before language, learning was just listening longer than hunger allowed. And somehow, that was enough. The day warms, insects hum louder, your skin glows with sweat. You drink from your hands again, the taste clean and ancient. You feel time stretch thin here, each moment as slow as erosion. You start to understand why the first gods were made of things that didn't move: stones, rivers, the sky itself. Everything else was too temporary to worship. And as the sun begins to fall, you realize something quiet but vast: survival. Here isn't the opposite of peace, it's the form peace takes when no one is watching. The smell of cooked fat fills the air. It's rich, primal, almost sweet. Smoke curls around you, tracing lazy circles through the cave. Someone just dropped a bone into the coals, hoping the marrow will melt enough to share. Hunger is constant here, but it doesn't feel cruel. It's just weather. Everyone knows it will come again tomorrow, and that's strangely comforting. You chew slowly, feeling the fibers tear apart between your teeth. Meat tastes wild, like the wind and dirt that raised it. It's not seasoned, not soft, just real. The first humans didn't eat for pleasure, they ate to remember what effort felt like. Each bite was proof they'd outsmarted something larger. You swallow, and your throat feels warm, grateful, almost emotional. Roots hang drying by the fire. Their smell is sharp, earthy, bitter. You've learned which ones poison and which ones heal, though sometimes they trade roles just to remind you who's in charge. Knowledge here isn't inherited, it's survived. A mistake at dinner becomes a lesson carved into bone. You grin at the thought. The first recipe books were probably screams. Berries stain your fingers purple. Their juice runs down your wrist, sticky and cold. Sweetness still feels like luck. You remember which bushes gave too much last season, which ones grew near ant hills, and which ones tasted like regret. For a creature without maps, memory was the only tool that mattered. You learned the land by what tried to kill you. The fire crackles. Someone tosses in a handful of insects wrapped in leaves. The smell is nutty, faintly metallic. You flinch at first, then chew anyway. The crunch is strangely satisfying. Protein doesn't care about pride. You laugh softly. Civilization would one day build entire economies on spices, but the best meal ever eaten was probably bugs roasted over anxiety. Sometimes there's fish. You catch them with sharpened sticks, hands numb from river water. Their scales flash like mirrors in the sun. When they cook, the smell is clean, almost floral. Bones crack easily. You keep them for tools later. Waste is a luxury your species can't afford yet. You realize everything tastes better when it's also a solution. Once a hunt succeeds. The smell of fresh blood is heavy, sweet, dizzying. You drag the carcass home, muscles trembling, chest tight with relief. The clan gathers, knives of stone flashing under moonlight. The meat sizzles. Fat pops in the fire. You don't celebrate with words. You celebrate by breathing slower. Fullness feels like victory. Sometimes there's nothing. The fire still burns, but the pots stay empty. Your stomach groans in harmony with everyone else's. The silence becomes dense, polite. No one complains. Hunger has etiquette too. It teaches humility better than any god. You stare into the fire and wonder if the stars ever go hungry. At dawn, you forage again. Dew wets your ankles. The smell of wet grass is overwhelming. You find mushrooms hiding beneath fallen logs, soft and cool. You scrape off dirt with a fingernail, pretending you can taste the difference between courage and desperation. You sit beside the fire again, chewing something uncertain but edible. Smoke drifts upward, carrying the smell of effort into the sky. You think about how someday, far away, in the future, people will pay extra for the idea of organic food. The thought makes you smile. Everything here was organic, and nobody cared. As the night returns, your belly finally quiets. You lie back on cool stone, breath slowing, bones heavy. Above you, stars blink like dying embers. You understand something primal. Eating wasn't about survival, it was the first ritual of gratitude. Hunger made humans holy, one meal at a time. The cave smells of smoke and wet stone. The air inside is cool, almost sweet, and heavy with the faint musk of bodies and ash. Your footsteps echo softly, each sound instantly swallowed by darkness. This isn't a house. It's a heartbeat carved into rock. You can feel warmth radiating from the dying fire near the entrance, flickering like the memory of sunlight. It feels safe here, but also temporary, like the mountain is simply letting you stay for a while. You run your hand along the wall, tracing grooves made by dripping water over centuries. The surface is cold and slick, yet alive with color when touched by flame. Someone painted here once, animals, hands, stories, told in ochre and smoke. You can almost hear the voices that made them, low murmurs blending with crackling wood. Every drawing is a conversation with fear. You realize art was never for beauty. It was for remembering that someone survived long enough to draw. The ceiling glistens faintly with condensation. Drops fall onto the dirt floor in slow, rhythmic beats. The sound is hypnotic, steady as breathing, gentle as a drum played by rain. You close your eyes and feel the moisture on your skin. Shelter wasn't about comfort here, it was about rhythm. Anything that moved predictably felt like safety. Outside, the wind howls, dragging with it the cries of animals and distant thunder. Inside, it becomes a whisper, reshaped by stone. The air smells like iron and pine resin from the firewood. Someone sleeps curled against the wall, wrapped in hides that still smell of the hunt. Another figure sharpens a flint knife by the light of the embers, each scrape like a heartbeat in time with your own. You look up at the mouth of the cave. The outside world glows faintly blue, the first hint of dawn. The contrast between light and dark feels alive, like two halves of the same animal breathing in opposite directions. You understand why early humans never truly left their caves. The darkness didn't scare them anymore. It taught them how to see differently. Sometimes, smoke fills the air too thickly. Your eyes sting, and the walls flicker with color. It smells like burnt hair and wet ash. Unpleasant, but familiar. You fan the air with your hands, and for a moment, you can see the shapes in the smoke. Faces, movements, things half remembered. Maybe that's how ghosts were invented. Mistakes in the air that looked like memory. When rain falls outside, the sound deepens. You hear water dripping into small pools, echoing like distant footsteps. The smell grows heavier, earthy, mineral, cold. You pull a fur over your shoulders and watch the fire's reflection dance across damp stone. The cave seems to pulse gently, as though exhaling the day's exhaustion. It feels alive enough to love you back. On colder nights, the clan huddles together. Dozens of breaths mix into one steady fog. Bodies press close for warmth, skin against skin, comfort found in familiarity. The smell is animal and human at once, sweat, smoke, and sleep. You learn that safety doesn't mean solitude. It means sharing warmth until fear runs out of space to sit. Sometimes, animals find their way inside too. Bats, foxes, even wolves, when hunger blurs the lines between species. Their eyes reflect firelight, gleaming gold. For a moment, the two of you just stare. You realize the difference between predator and guest is just timing. When dawn finally arrives, light creeps into the cave inch by inch. Dust sparkles in the beam, floating like stars. The air feels lighter, the shadows retreat. You step toward the mouth, squinting against the morning glare. The world outside smells new again, grass wet with dew, soil steaming from night rain. And as you take your first step into sunlight, you look back once. The cave remains behind you, glowing faintly with embers. It doesn't feel empty, it feels watchful, as though it knows you'll return when the next storm comes. Shelter, after all, isn't where you live, it's where the fear fits. The cold comes like memory. It doesn't arrive, it returns. You wake before dawn, breath already visible, each exhale curling into frost. The world outside the cave is silver and brittle. Grass blades crunch underfoot like thin glass. The air tastes metallic, and your skin tightens around your bones. Cold doesn't just sting, it instructs. Every movement slows, every thought sharpens. You understand why survival became a ritual. It gave people something to do between shivers. Fire is your only conversation partner in this season. It hisses, crackles, occasionally spits in complaint. The smell of burning pine sap fills the air, sweet and sharp, the perfume of endurance. You crouch close, palms open, feeling the skin on your hands tighten and dry. The light paints everything amber. Even the cold begins to look warm through its reflection. Outside, snow drifts quietly through the air. The flakes fall so slowly they seem undecided. Each one catches the firelight before dying on your sleeve. You watch them melt, tiny worlds vanishing into your skin. Winter, you realize, is patient. It doesn't fight. It waits. The cavemen didn't conquer the cold. They made peace treaties with it. Food becomes rare. The air smells less of smoke and more of bone. You chew dried meat, hard as wood, its salt cutting into your tongue. Water freezes inside skins, You break the ice and drink carefully, feeling it burn your throat on the way down. Hunger sharpens everything. The sound of distant animals, the scent of hidden roots under snow, the edge of your own thoughts. Sometimes a storm rolls in. The wind shrieks through the trees, carrying frozen dust and broken branches. You hear it before you feel it, a rising whistle that sounds almost alive. Snow enters the cave like a ghost, swirling in spirals before settling. You pull furs tighter, watching the fire struggle. The flames bend, bow, and finally roar back to life. You learn that warmth, like courage, only grows when cornered. Nights stretch endlessly. The sky turns so black it looks bottomless. You hear wolves calling somewhere far off, their voices overlapping like prayers. The sound isn't frightening, it's proof that something else is still alive. You close your eyes and imagine their shapes moving through snow, lean and certain. In another life, you might have admired them too closely. Morning brings pale light, filtered through fog. The trees outside look skeletal, white breath hanging from their branches. You step out briefly, your feet sinking into powder. Each print you leave freezes almost instantly. You wonder if your footprints will survive the season, tiny fossils of exhaustion. Then you laugh quietly. Nature doesn't archive pity. Fire becomes everything. You dream about it, talk to it, even feed it carefully, as if it could starve. The smell of smoke seeps into every part of your skin. When you close your eyes, you see orange veins dancing behind your eyelids. Fire isn't warmth anymore, it's identity. Without it, you wouldn't exist. You'd evaporate into the same air that froze your ancestors. When spring finally arrives, it doesn't announce itself. The snow just forgets to fall. The air smells wetter, softer, almost forgiving. Grass pushes through the melting ground, pale and trembling. Birds return like excuses. You realize that seasons here don't change, they recover. You stand outside one morning, watching sunlight pool across the valley. The warmth touches your face, hesitant but real. You feel your bones unclench. For the first time in months, you can smell soil instead of survival. The earth exhales, and you do too. And in that slow thaw, you understand the first real luxury humanity ever invented, waiting for spring, and believing it would come back. The sound is steady, hypnotic, stone striking stone. Sparks leap and vanish in the air, leaving behind the smell of dust and friction. You kneel in the dim light, hammering one rock against another until your hands ache. The rhythm feels ancient, mechanical, intimate. A good edge takes hours to make, sometimes days. Time didn't exist before tools. The first clocks were just tired arms and unfinished work. You turn the flint in your hand, studying its sharpness. Tiny fractures glint like frozen lightning. You've made something that wasn't there before, a small miracle of violence and patience. It's more than a weapon. It's proof that thought can outlive hunger. You test it against wood, against bone, against your own palm. It slices cleanly, promising both survival and regret. Tools always carried both. Nearby, another person sharpens a spearhead. The scraping sounds merge with the crackle of fire and the faint whistle of wind outside. You notice the way the flakes of stone gather at their knees, forming a small pile of wasted possibility. Each shard is a mistake, a reminder that progress was always built on splinters. You smile. Evolution, it seems, was never tidy. The cave smells of crushed flint, wet fur and sweat. Smoke twists through the air like thought made visible. The act of making feels ritualistic, slow, deliberate, personal. You can feel your heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the strikes. It's not just about shaping stone, it's about shaping time into something obedient. You tie the flint blade to a stick with strips of sinew. The material smells faintly of salt and decay, sticky against your fingers. When it dries, it will hold firm. The first glue made of desperation and leftover bones. You realize that every invention begins as compromise. Humans never discovered, they improvised. Outside, a child watches you work. Their eyes follow every movement, memorizing the ritual without words. Knowledge here is taught through sound, not explanation. You pass the blade into their hands carefully. It's heavy, cold, almost holy. They hold it with both palms, reverent and afraid. In that moment, you witness the first transfer of technology and the birth of responsibility. As the sun sets, you test the new spear. The balance feels right. The tip gleams in fading light. You hurl it toward a distant tree. It lands deep, humming with impact. The echo lingers, blending with the calls of night birds. You feel something like pride, though the word hasn't been invented yet. Later, you sit by the fire, cleaning the blade. The soot on your fingers smells like metal, though none has been forged. You look at the tool and realize it's a mirror of your mind, sharp, breakable, useful, only when directed. You've built something dangerous, but also something sacred. The first art wasn't painting, it was precision. The night hums outside, sparks drift upward like captive stars, vanishing into the dark. You think of how every generation after you will refine this tool, polish it, name it, forget it, then rediscover it again. Progress, you suspect, isn't a ladder, it's a circle. The fire burns low. Your hands throb, your shoulders ache. The flint knife rests beside you, cooling slowly. It catches the faint orange of the embers and reflects it back. You realize the most important part of making something isn't the tool, it's the pause after it's done. The quiet acknowledgement that effort has shape now. And as sleep pulls you down, you understand that stone never really became smarter. It just learned to wait for hands like yours. The night smells of smoke and roasted fat. Fire cracks at the center of the small camp, its glow turning faces into living shadows. Sparks rise and vanish like tiny ghosts. You can hear the steady breathing of others beside you, the soft rhythm of exhaustion and trust. This is the first village, even if it only lasts until morning. You pass a bone to someone near you. They nod, take a bite, and pass it on again. The gesture feels ancient, almost instinctive. Sharing here isn't morality, it's math. Everyone gives so that the circle stays unbroken. A full stomach tonight means another pair of hands to guard the fire tomorrow. You realize that kindness was never invented, it was just efficient. A child laughs suddenly, a bright sound against the low hum of the fire. Someone mimics a mammoth's roar, loud and ridiculous, and everyone laughs harder. The sound fills the dark like armor. Humor, it seems, was born from exhaustion. When the world could kill you at any time, laughter became proof you were still alive. You smell the fire thick in your hair and skin. It seeps into everything, furs, tools, even the air. The warmth touches your cheeks, and the shadows move with every flicker. Someone begins to hum softly, a rising and falling rhythm with no words. The melody sways like wind in tall grass. You realize this might be music's first appearance. Hunger turned into harmony. A man begins to speak, his voice low, deliberate. He describes a hunt, the chase, the fall, the kill. His gestures are wide and animated. His shadow dances across the cave wall. The listeners lean forward, eyes wide. The story doesn't need language. It lives in motion, in breath, in shared silence. You can feel it. The first time fear became entertainment. The fire pops loudly, throwing sparks into the dark. Each one floats up and disappears, but everyone watches. Maybe they're not looking at the fire, they're looking at the idea of eternity. You think about how fragile this moment is, a handful of warmth surrounded by miles of cold, yet somehow it feels infinite. Someone adds more wood. The light brightens, revealing faces you hadn't noticed before. Some smile, some just stare, lost in thought. You sense connection, a web forming quietly through shared gaze. This is what civilization will eventually call society, but tonight it's just company. The storyteller pauses to drink. The silence that follows feels thick, almost sacred. You hear the wind outside, the rustle of branches, the far-off cry of an owl. Inside the circle, no one moves. Even the fire seems to listen. You realize that attention itself is an offering. A spark lands on your wrist, stings briefly and fades. You rub the spot, smiling. Pain, even small, feels grounding. Around you, people begin to lean against one another, eyes heavy. The story slows into murmurs, laughter into breathing. The fire still talks, but softly now, content to finish the tale alone. You lie back on the ground, the dirt cool against your spine. Above, the stars pulse faintly through gaps in the cave roof. The air tastes of smoke and satisfaction. You realize something beautiful. The first civilization wasn't built with walls or tools. It was built with listening. As your eyes drift shut, you feel the heat from the fire lingering on your face, the steady rhythm of breathing all around. And in that quiet harmony, you understand what us truly meant. Not blood, not language, not tribe, just warmth, shared long enough to forget the dark. The dark hums differently now. The fire behind you sighs low, its light barely reaching the edge of the cave. Beyond that faint orange line, everything dissolves into sound. You hear grass shifting, the soft thump of distant paws, the groan of something large moving through brush. The smell of wet fur and soil drifts through the air. You freeze. In this world, silence doesn't mean safety. It means you've been noticed. Your heartbeat becomes thunder in your ears. You grip a burning stick, watching the shadows stretch and bend. The firelight flickers across the walls, revealing the faint, red handprints of those who lived and feared before you. They seem to whisper, "You're not the first." You feel a strange comfort in that, a shared terror thousands of years long. A pair of eyes gleam from the dark. They blink once, twice, then vanish. The sound of movement fades. It could have been a wolf, or a bear, or something no one ever named. You realize that in a world without language, fear had to speak through muscle memory. Every nerve in your body was a prophet. Someone behind you shifts, breaking a branch. The crack is deafening. You both laugh softly, half from relief, half from instinct. In this moment, isn't joy, it's camouflage. You remember that even predators hesitate at strange noises. Civilization will one day build walls. You've built humor. You smell the smoke again, sharp, alive, defensive. Fire is your only line of dialogue with the night. Its crackle keeps the dark at bay, a conversation between survival and curiosity. You toss in another branch, watching sparks leap upward like tiny birds. For a moment, you feel powerful. Then the wind changes, and the fire bends away from you. Nature reminds you who started this story. Somewhere far off, something howls. The sound travels through stone and bone, vibrating deep in your chest. It's not just a predator's call, it's communication, maybe a warning, maybe a question. You answer it without realizing, your breath sinking with its rhythm. For a heartbeat, hunter and hunted share the same pulse. Fear, you realize, isn't a punishment, it's rehearsal. It teaches stillness, teaches attention. Without it, you'd never learn to listen this deeply. The animals don't hate you. They just know what you forgot. That every meal requires permission from something else's silence. The fire burns lower. You can see your reflection in the last glowing coals, eyes wide, skin streaked with ash. You look almost like the creature outside, both of you tethered to the same hunger, the same light. The difference between man and monster is just who stands closer to the fire. You wrap your fur tighter around your shoulders. The cold presses in, heavy and slow. You can smell your own fear now, acrid, real, but not overwhelming. It smells like learning. You wonder how many generations had to survive the same lesson before courage became inheritance. The wind dies down. The forest quiets. You listen harder, and for the first time, you hear nothing. The absence feels like approval. Maybe the creature left, or maybe it decided you weren't worth the trouble. Either way, the world has agreed to let you sleep. You close your eyes, the glow of the fire soft against your eyelids. The fear lingers, but softer now, like an old teacher sitting in the back of the room, proud and silent. You realize fear doesn't vanish, it retires. And when morning comes, it will leave you stronger, though you'll call it bravery instead of survival. The morning smells like iron and frost. Your breath fogs in the cold, rising in pale clouds that vanish quickly. Around you, the others move silently, bare feet crunching over frozen grass, spears balanced on shoulders. No one speaks. Conversation wastes warmth. The hunt has already begun, though you haven't seen the prey yet. You crouch low, fingers brushing the ground. You find a fresh track, a wide print, heavy in the heel. The animal passed only hours ago. You touch the edge of the mark. It's cold, but not frozen. Your pulse quickens. This is the oldest thrill on earth, the promise of meat. You can almost taste it already, even before it bleeds. The world is quiet, except for the whisper of your breath and the faint click of flint tools. The sun has barely risen, casting long, sharp shadows across the field. Everything glows blue and gold, a painting made by cold. You move carefully, feeling the grass snap beneath your feet. Every sound here has consequence. Every mistake smells like starvation. Then you see it, a great shadow moving between trees. The smell hits first, musk, soil, fur, and fear. A mammoth. Its body sways with slow, terrible grace. Steam rises from its back, like breath from a god. You feel awe before hunger. For a second, the idea of killing it feels absurd. Then your stomach growls, and reverence becomes strategy. You signal to the others, one hand raised, two fingers pointing, silent language born from necessity. They spread out, forming a crescent. The wind shifts. The smell of human skin and smoke travels forward. The mammoth freezes. Its eye glints like amber. The air thickens into the kind of silence that makes even the sky hold its breath. The first spear flies, it arcs through sunlight, spinning once before striking flesh. The sound is dull, wet, final. The mammoth bellows, a deep, shaking roar that rattles your bones. Birds explode from the trees. The ground itself seems to flinch. You throw your own spear next. It lands true. The beast stumbles, blood darkening its fur. You feel fear, pity, triumph all at once. When it falls, the world exhales. The silence that follows is louder than the kill itself. Steam rises from the body, carrying the smell of blood, grass, and warmth. You approach slowly, hand trembling. Its eye still glistens, reflecting the sky. You whisper a thank you, not out of habit, but instinct. Gratitude, it turns out, was the first religion. The others join you. Knives of stone flash in the sun, slicing meat from bone. The smell is overwhelming, metallic and sweet, filling the air with history. Smoke curls upward as someone starts a fire. You eat with your hands, grease dripping down your wrists. The flavor is wild and clean. It tastes like debt paid off. You look at the mammoth's tusks, long and perfect. They'll become tools, weapons, ornaments. Nothing will be wasted. The animal becomes everything: home, hunger, memory. You understand why so many ancient carvings honored their prey. To kill something that feeds you feels less like victory and more like communion. When night falls, you sit around the fire, telling the story again. Each person adds a detail: the sound it made, the way it looked, who struck first. The tale grows larger, warmer, more impossible. You realize this is what myth was for: to make survival sound heroic enough to do again. And as the firelight glows across your faces, the scent of cooked meat still heavy in the air, you know that every story humanity will ever tell, from gods to kings to dreams, starts with this one. Something enormous, something hungry, and the quiet decision to live another day. The morning fog clings low to the ground, thick and pale, carrying the smell of wet soil and smoke. You kneel beside a shallow pit, the air heavy with silence. Around you, the others stand still, eyes downcast. There are no prayers, no hymns, no explanations, only breath and the faint sound of wind moving through grass. The body before you is wrapped in fur and leaves, its face covered with red ochre. The color looks like blood pretending to stay alive. You don't understand death yet, but you feel its temperature. It's cold even when the sun is warm. The person in the pit doesn't move, doesn't answer, but still feels present. You touch their hand, it's stiff, pale, heavy. The world doesn't allow this much stillness without reason. You step back, unsure whether to be afraid or respectful. Maybe they're the same thing? Someone drops a small stone beside the body. Another adds a carved bone, a piece of fruit, a broken tool. Gifts for the journey, though no one knows where the road goes. The gesture feels instinctive, ancient. You realize this is how ritual began, not from faith, but from confusion, softened by care. You bury what you love so that the world doesn't feel so empty. The smell of earth rises as you start to cover the body. The dirt is cold, damp, and heavy. Each handful feels like punctuation. You can hear the soft patter of soil landing on fur, like rain falling on a roof. The sound is oddly comforting. You're not closing a door, you're creating a boundary between mystery and memory. When the pit is full, everyone steps back. The mound looks almost peaceful, like the ground exhaled. A few strands of grass lie across the soil. bright green against brown. Someone hums softly, a wordless sound, low and steady. It might be grief, it might just be rhythm. Either way, it fills the air like smoke. You sit nearby, watching sunlight slowly reach the grave. It glows faintly on the soil, making it look warm again. You imagine the person waking up below, surrounded by roots and silence, not frightened, just waiting. You realize that maybe the dead don't go anywhere, they just stop needing light. Later that night, you can't sleep. The fire crackles quietly, its smell thick in your hair. You look at the stars and think of the one buried beneath your feet. The sky feels too large, too indifferent. You whisper something into the dark, not because anyone will hear, but because silence feels heavier than words. Days pass. You notice animals avoid the burial site. Birds perch nearby but never land. The wind always moves slower there, as if respecting the shape of absence. You start leaving offerings, berries, bones, flowers you barely understand. It feels less like duty and more like conversation. The world starts to answer, gently. Sometimes you dream of the dead. They're not frightening. They look exactly as they did, only cleaner, quieter. They never speak, but their presence feels like advice. You wake with tears drying on your face and don't know why. Emotion, it seems, existed long before language dared to describe it. You visit the grave one more time. The mound has flattened slightly. Grass has begun to grow over it, tender and green. You press your palm against it, feeling the earth pulse faintly beneath. You don't know if that's your heartbeat or theirs. Maybe it doesn't matter. And as you turn to leave, the wind carries a faint smell of soil and smoke, the same as the day they died. It feels like memory learning how to breathe. The air inside the cave tastes of ash and something sweet, almost floral. The fire burns higher than usual tonight, its light flickering across the walls like restless spirits. You sit close to the heat, your skin tingling, your heart heavy with things you can't explain. Around you, others gather in silence, their eyes reflecting flame. No one speaks. Ritual doesn't need instruction. It happens the same way hunger does. Someone throws herbs into the fire. The smoke thickens, curling upward in fragrant ribbons. The smell is sharp, pine, grass, fat, maybe something else. It fills your lungs until you feel half made of it. The air hums softly. The flames change color for a moment, glowing green, then gold. You stare, entranced, half believing. The fire is trying to say something back. A woman begins to hum. The sound is low and haunting, the same note repeated endlessly. Others join in, each voice slightly off, like echoes out of sync. The vibration fills the cave, makes the fire tremble. You close your eyes and feel it move through your chest, warm and alive. This isn't music, it's geometry made audible. Someone draws symbols in ash on the ground. Spirals, hands, animals, eyes. The shapes glow faintly under the light, forming patterns that feel familiar even though you've never seen them. You realize symbols existed before meaning. People needed to draw before they needed to read. The flames pop loudly, spitting sparks into the air. One lands on your arm and burns briefly. You don't flinch. Pain feels holy here, a sign of participation. You remember stories told around other fires, voices speaking of sky creatures, of ancestors who live in rivers, of stars that blink when they're watching. You smile faintly. Maybe they're not wrong. Maybe everything that listens long enough becomes divine. Someone pours oil into the fire. and the flames leap high, roaring like an animal. The smoke thickens, filling the cave with a heavy scent of fat and resin. The shadows on the walls grow larger, stretching and twisting until they look like people dancing. The living and the imagined overlap for a few breaths. You realize this is how gods were born, accidents of light mistaken for company. You throw in your own offering, a carved bone, polished smooth from your hands. It's small, meaningless, but feels significant as it catches fire and glows orange before crumbling. The smell of burning bone is sharp, almost sweet. You think about how strange it is that destruction can feel like communication. The humming grows louder, deeper, slower. The flames respond, flickering rhythmically as though breathing in time. You feel your thoughts dissolve into warmth. The sound, the smell, the light, they all blend into one long exhale. It doesn't feel like worship anymore. It feels like synchronization. When the fire begins to die, no one moves. The smoke lingers, thick and blue. You stare into the glowing coals, their surfaces pulsing faintly like heartbeats. You understand that the fire has become a mirror. It shows you what you are when everything else disappears. One by one, people leave until only the crackle remains. You stay, watching the last ember fade. The air smells of dust and endings. For the first time, you realize something profound. Gods weren't born in heaven. They were born from humans trying to make warmth permanent. As dawn bleeds through the cave mouth, the coals cool to grey. The symbols drawn in ash are smudged, fading. The silence feels respectful. You stand, stretch, and step outside into the light. The wind carries smoke into the sky, where it disappears. Still climbing, you follow it with your eyes, and for a moment, you almost believe it found someone listening. The cave is silent, except for the faint whisper of wind sneaking through cracks in the stone. You hold a torch high, its flame trembling, painting gold light across uneven walls. The air smells of smoke, fat, and iron dust. Your fingers are sticky with pigment, crushed berries, powdered rock, charcoal. When you press your hand to the wall, it feels cool, damp, alive. You leave the print there. Red, open, human. You've signed something larger than a story. Around you, others work too. One blows pigment through a hollow bone, clouding color across stone. Another grinds ochre with saliva, creating a thick paste that clings like thought, refusing to fade. The fire flickers, and for a moment, the drawings move, bison running, hunters leaping, hands reaching. You realize that this isn't decoration, it's memory pinned down before time could forget. The smell of smoke grows heavier as more torches burn. Shadows dance over the paintings, making them shimmer. You watch the shapes breathe. It's as if the cave itself is performing, walls flexing, animals alive for one last hunt. You can hear the crackle of flame and your own heartbeat merging. Art here isn't quiet, it roars, softly. Someone hums, the same rhythm used in hunting chants. The sound bounces off the stone and returns doubled. Echoes join the paintings, giving them sound. You understand that creation was never about beauty. It was about reflection. Humans didn't invent art because they were bored. They invented it because silence was unbearable. You smear a line of black across the rock, curved like a river, broken by dots like stepping stones. You don't know why you choose that shape, only that it feels right. The wall accepts it. You laugh quietly. It feels like the first inside joke between species. Maybe the Earth was the original collaborator. You step back and look at the images. A mammoth, a man, a hand, a flame. Each shape glows faintly in the firelight, as though alive and shy. You realize you've just made time visible. The drawings are already older than your heartbeat. Someone in the far future will look at them and feel what you feel now. Connection without context. A child sits nearby, watching you work. Their eyes are wide, reflecting the light. You dip your fingers into red pigment and draw a small circle on their palm. They smile, pressing it against the wall next to yours. Two prints, big and small, side by side. The simplest way to say we were here together. When you run out of color, you sit by the fire, breathing in the faint sweetness of crushed berries and smoke. The air feels thick with presence. You close your eyes and imagine the drawings whispering to one another after you leave, continuing the story without you. Maybe that's what legacy means, not being remembered, but continuing to echo. The torches burn lower. The shadows stretch longer. Someone yawns. Someone laughs quietly. The mood shifts from reverence to contentment. You realize you've just experienced the first exhibition, and no one will ever leave a bad review. Before leaving, you press your hand one last time to the wall over the shape of an animal you painted earlier. Its back fits perfectly beneath your palm, as if returning the touch. You smile and whisper something you don't have words for. As you step into the cold air outside, the night smells new. The stars glimmer faintly through mist. Behind you, deep in the cave, the walls still glow orange in the dark, holding the warmth of your torch. The world is enormous, but now a small part of it remembers you. The night feels heavier tonight. Clouds hide the stars, and the fire burns low, its smoke thick and sweet. You sit close to it, watching the flames twist around one another like thought made visible. Across from you, someone hums softly. Another sharpens a tool. Another stares into the flames, lost in some private world. You realize that even though no one speaks, you can feel their separate thoughts. Individuality has arrived quietly, carried by boredom. You take a stick and trace shapes in the dirt. Circles, spirals, faces. The firelight flickers over your drawing, giving it depth. The shape almost looks like you, rough, uneven, but recognizable. You tilt your head, studying it. The thought feels absurd, intimate, unsettling. This is how identity began. A shadow that accidentally resembled its owner. Someone beside you notices and laughs softly. They mimic you, scratching their own outline beside yours. The resemblance is vague but intentional. The two faces stare at each other, mouths curved slightly upward. You both look down, embarrassed but pleased. It feels like conversation, but without danger. The first portrait session in human history ends in silence and smoke. The air smells of burnt bone and damp grass. The fire pops, sending sparks drifting upward. You follow them with your eyes until they vanish into darkness. You realize how strange it is to be aware of yourself, to know that your body belongs to you, that your mind has corners no one else can enter. It's both power and prison. You lean closer to the fire. Its warmth hits your face unevenly, hot on one side, cold on the other. The sensation is new, distinct. For the first time, you notice the duality in everything. Hunger and satisfaction, fear and safety, us and me. It's unsettling at first, then comforting. Complexity, it turns out, feels human. Behind you, someone begins to speak in low tones, describing a dream. The others listen, not interrupting. Dreams are treated as truth here. No one knows the difference yet. You hear about animals that talk, rivers that glow, skies that bleed. You smile faintly. These will one day become myths, religions, epics. But tonight, they're just stories about imagination accidentally waking up. You pick up a smooth stone and study your reflection in it. The image is warped and shimmering, but it moves when you do. Your eyes look enormous, almost frightened. You touch your face, then the reflection. The cool surface feels alive for a second. You laugh quietly. It's ridiculous and profound at once. You've just invented the concept of mirrors. The fire crackles louder now. Everyone gathers closer, their faces outlined in amber and shadow. You can see their individuality clearly, one with a scar across their cheek, one missing a tooth, one with eyes that always wander upward. Each face is different, specific. Humanity no longer looks like a single species. It looks like a collection of stories. The night deepens, the air grows colder, and breath turns to mist. Someone adds more wood to the fire, and the light grows bright again, almost golden. You feel an odd pride, not in strength or skill, but in awareness. Consciousness itself feels like fire, warm, dangerous, and impossible to ignore once seen. As sleep begins to pull at you, you glance once more at the faces around you. The flickering light turns them into moving sculptures, expressions of curiosity, exhaustion, peace. You think about how strange it is that someday people will study this moment and call it evolution, when it simply feels like staying awake too long beside a good fire. The embers fade to red, glowing softly like thoughts that refuse to sleep. You lie back, listening to the crackle and the breathing of your companions. Somewhere in that warmth and noise, the word "I" takes shape, though no one says it aloud. And by morning, the world will never again feel as simple as it did the night before. The morning begins quiet, but you can feel the tension before the sound. It hums in the air like static before lightning. The campfire has burned down to ash. Only a faint curl of smoke rises from the pit. The air smells of soot and damp fur. Two hunters stand opposite each other, their voices low but sharp. The argument isn't about food or danger, it's about who led the hunt. Civilization's oldest tradition is starting. The contest for credit. Their hands move as they speak, slicing through air like weapons too polite to draw. The others watch, not interfering. In this world, words don't yet exist for ego or pride, but the feeling is unmistakable. One of them gestures toward the carcass lying nearby, a deer, ribs split open, blood drying dark in the morning light. The smell of iron fills the silence. Pride and hunger always share a table. You stand close enough to hear their breath, harsh and uneven. Each man's chest rises and falls like a drumbeat. They aren't angry about meat, they're angry about memory, who will be remembered for it. The difference between survival and story is starting to matter. You realize that history itself was probably born from an argument like this. The group murmurs softly, picking sides without realizing it. You hear the shuffle of feet, the crack of a branch under pressure. Someone laughs nervously, breaking the tension for half a heartbeat. Then it builds again. The air thickens, smoky, metallic. The sun climbs higher, spilling light across the clearing. Shadows lengthen like spectators leaning in. One of the men grabs a stick, points it toward the other. It's not a weapon yet, it's punctuation. His voice rises, his jaw tightens. The other doesn't move, just stares, his silence louder than noise. The crowd holds its breath. You smell adrenaline, sharp and animal. The first government, you think, was just everyone waiting to see who blinked first. Finally, one steps back. He lowers his stick, muttering something that sounds like surrender or exhaustion. The others exhale. The moment passes without blood. Power, it seems, doesn't always need violence to declare itself. It just needs an audience. You feel the relief spread through the camp like smoke finally escaping. Afterward, the two men sit apart, pretending to focus on sharpening tools. No one talks about it. The silence feels like an agreement not to ruin peace with understanding. Humans will perfect that art later. You notice how quickly life resumes. Someone cleans the carcass, someone feeds the fire, someone hums. The world doesn't end when people disagree, it adjusts. Maybe that's the real reason humanity survived. They learned how to stay near the people they didn't fully trust. That night, the fire burns higher than usual. The two hunters sit side by side, not touching, but close enough to share heat. You hear one of them tell the story of the hunt again, this time giving credit to both. The crowd laughs in relief. The argument transformed into myth. You realize that stories weren't invented to entertain, they were invented to repair. The smoke rises into the cold night, carrying the scent of meat and reconciliation. You sit quietly, watching faces soften in the firelight. Every civilization that will ever exist begins here. One fight, one peace, one story retold until everyone agrees it happened kindly. And as the flames die down, you think about how strange it is that pride, like hunger, always comes back the next day. But at least tonight, no one's starving. The valley stretches wide under pale dawn. Mist clings to the grass, heavy and wet, glowing faintly in the new light. You can hear the stream murmuring nearby, the sound slow and patient. But the camp behind you doesn't share that calm. The group is packing skins, tools, bundles of meat. The smell of smoke mixes with tension. They're leaving, half the tribe heading north, half staying behind. The word goodbye doesn't exist yet, but it's about to be invented. You watch as people divide possessions that don't truly belong to anyone. Baskets, flints, torches, even the embers from last night's fire. Someone carries a brand wrapped in bark and moss, smoke trailing behind it like a memory that refuses to go out. You realize that leaving is humanity's oldest ceremony, half courage, half betrayal. The air feels thick with unspoken things. One group stands near the riverbank, the other by the trees. Faces are quiet, resigned. There's no shouting, no violence, just the slow ache of parting. You smell damp earth and the faint salt of tears. Separation, you realize, doesn't need hate to hurt. It just needs distance. A child runs between the two groups, laughing, oblivious. Their small footprints fill with water as they cross the mud. The sight softens the air. Someone kneels and hugs them, holding on a moment longer than necessary. That's how you know it's real. Goodbyes always take longer than logic allows. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of pine and ash. It reminds everyone that storms are coming, that the decision can't wait. One by one, people start walking. The sound of footsteps on wet ground blends with the rustle of grass. The noise feels final. The unity that once felt eternal now divides cleanly, like a bone snapping for marrow. You watch them grow smaller, their shapes fading into mist. They'll follow the river north until the mountains cut the sky. You know this because you'll dream about them later, faces glowing in firelight, voices half forgotten. Distance doesn't erase people, it just translates them into memory. Back in camp, the silence feels unnatural. The fire crackles too loudly, and the space where laughter used to live feels hollow. You notice how the remaining group huddles closer, instinctively filling the absence. You realize that separation breeds identity. They'll call themselves something new soon, not because they want to, but because they must. Days pass. You find yourself repeating their old songs, just to hear familiar rhythm. The river still flows, the animals still wander, but everything sounds slightly different. The world, it seems, has learned how to echo loss. One evening, you see smoke rising far off on the horizon, a faint column in the distance. You know it's them, the others, building their own fire, telling their own stories. The sight feels like warmth and ache combined. You smile despite yourself. Humanity, you realize, never really separated. It just multiplied. You sit by your own fire, adding a branch, watching sparks rise and vanish. The air smells like pine resin and possibility. You understand something quietly profound. Survival isn't about staying together forever. It's about knowing someone else will keep the fire going when you're too far to see it. And as darkness folds around you, the wind shifts, carrying a faint scent of smoke from somewhere far north. You breathe it in and know they're still alive. The fire burns small tonight, just enough to paint the cave in amber light. The air smells of smoke, sweat, and the faint sweetness of crushed berries. You sit close to someone, so close you can feel the warmth radiating from their skin. Hear their slow, deliberate breathing. The silence between you isn't empty, it hums with recognition. There's no word for love yet, but the feeling is already fluent. You watch them chew on a strip of dried meat, their jaw moving rhythmically, their eyes reflecting the fire. They pass you the rest without speaking. You take it, fingers brushing theirs briefly. The contact sends a quiet shiver down your arm, as if your skin understood something your brain didn't. You eat slowly, tasting salt, smoke, and comfort. Sharing here is more than kindness, it's confession. Outside, wind moves through tall grass, whispering through the cave's narrow mouth. The sound blends with the crackle of fire and the steady rhythm of breathing. You lean your shoulder against theirs, the fur between you both soft and warm. They don't move away. The small gesture feels enormous. In a world built on survival, stillness becomes intimacy. You look at their face, sharp features softened by the glow of flame. Their hair catches the light, gleaming gold and copper. You wonder what they see when they look at you. There are no mirrors here, only reflections in eyes and water. Maybe that's why affection feels like permission, to exist inside someone else's gaze for a moment. The night smells of wood and rain. Drops begin to fall outside, soft at first, then harder, drumming against stone. The sound fills the cave, a rhythm both soothing and infinite. You both watch the fire sway with each gust of wind. The flames bend, then right themselves again, stubborn and alive. It feels familiar. You realize love is just endurance disguised as tenderness. They reach forward, adding a branch to the fire. Sparks jump upward, reflecting briefly in their eyes. You study the movement, the deliberate care. Every small act here is sacred, feeding warmth, guarding light. You don't need vows when every gesture already means survival. At some point they fall asleep, head resting lightly on your shoulder. The weight feels fragile and infinite at once. You listen to their breathing, slow, even, alive. You think about how brief everything is. The warmth, the night, the beating hearts pretending to be eternal. But for now, existence feels enough. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to feel the closeness better. The smell of smoke clings to your skin, mixing with theirs until you can't tell the difference. You think about how love probably began this way, not as a promise, but as shared temperature. When dawn finally arrives, light filters through the cave mouth, pale and quiet. You wake first, stretching your limbs carefully. They stir, eyes half open, smiling faintly without knowing why. You hand them a piece of fruit, its surface cold with dew. They take it, brush your hand again, and the world becomes simple for one heartbeat. Later, when you both step outside, the air smells like wet grass and ash. You walk side by side without words, footprints overlapping in soft earth. It doesn't matter who leads, you move in rhythm anyway. You realize the oldest love story was never about forever. It was about walking through fear with someone who didn't make the silence heavier. And somewhere behind you, the cave exhales smoke into the morning sky, a thin, patient signal that warmth once existed here and might again. The night smells of ash and sweat. The fire flickers low, throwing long shadows across the walls. At the far end of the cave, someone groans softly. The others gather around, quiet, alert. The air feels thick, reverent. You can hear breathing, steady, tense, rhythmic. The first birth is happening again, as it has countless times before. There are no midwives, no words of encouragement, only hands, firelight, and faith in repetition. You kneel near the edge of the group, heart pounding. The sound fills the cave, the deep, primal music of creation. A cry, a pause, another cry. The smell of blood mingles with smoke, sharp and real. You realize you've smelled it before in hunts, in wounds, but this time it means something opposite. The same scent now signals beginning, not ending. Someone adds wood to the fire. The flames brighten, painting the rock walls gold. The newborn's first wail rises, high and piercing, echoing off the stone. The noise sounds both fragile and eternal, as if the entire world briefly forgot how to breathe. You feel tears forming, though you don't understand why. It's awe disguised as confusion. The mother exhales, body trembling, face glistening with sweat. Another woman kneels beside her, wiping her brow with a piece of fur. The newborn is placed against her chest, still slick, still crying. The fire reflects in their eyes, two lives mirrored, one ancient, one just beginning. You realize humanity doesn't reproduce out of instinct alone. It reproduces out of defiance. The smell of blood lingers, earthy and metallic. Someone pours water from a hollowed bone shell, washing the ground clean. The act feels ceremonial, even if no one calls it that. The water hisses softly when it hits the coals. Steam rises, sweet and bitter, like incense. The first baptism wasn't holy, it was hygiene mistaken for grace. The child quiets, the mother hums softly, a tune without melody, just comfort looping endlessly. The sound fills the cave, wrapping everyone in calm. You notice the fire reflecting off the child's skin. It looks almost translucent, light trying to enter a new world. For a moment, you forget the cold outside. the hunger waiting, the danger beyond the cave. All you feel is continuation. One of the elders steps forward, touching the baby's forehead gently with ash. The gesture is simple, wordless. Protection, perhaps. Recognition. You realize symbols were born in this kind of silence, when emotions outgrew vocabulary. The night deepens, quiet except for the crackling fire and the mother's faint hum. The others drift to sleep nearby, but you stay awake, staring at the newborn. They breathe unevenly, tiny chest rising and falling like a tide. You think about how many generations this moment has happened, how each birth has been both repetition and rebellion. When morning comes, the air smells fresher, cleaner. The mother stirs, exhausted but peaceful. The baby opens its eyes for the first time, unfocused but bright. You wonder what it sees: faces, light, movement. The world, for all its brutality, must look like wonder to someone who's never been hurt by it yet. You step outside for air. The grass glistens with dew, the sun climbs slow. Smoke drifts from the cave mouth, pale and tender. You realize that birth is the only time the earth and humanity breathe in rhythm. Every cry echoes back as confirmation: life continues. And as you watch the smoke rise, curling upward like prayer, you understand why people began calling fire mother. It didn't just warm the living, it forgave them for dying. The air is still tonight. The fire burns steady and calm, its orange glow resting softly on the walls. You can hear wind moving through the valley outside, long and low, carrying the faint whistle of hollow reeds. The sound is accidental, but it lingers, curling through the cave like something alive. You tilt your head, listening closer. It's not quite melody, not yet, but it's organized enough to be remembered. The first song, perhaps, wasn't sung, it was discovered. You pick up a bird bone, light and smooth, drilled with tiny holes by teeth or time. You hold it to your lips, curious. The first breath produces nothing but air. The second, a faint note, thin and trembling. You try again. The sound deepens, wobbling, then finds shape. The others look up, startled, then smile. It's not speech, not imitation, but something new. Emotion without reason. The firelight flickers, and shadows begin to sway in rhythm. Someone claps, softly, offbeat but sincere. The sound fills the silence like rain tapping on leaves. Another person joins in, slapping hands against thighs. Soon the cave hums with rhythm. You blow again, a few notes this time, uneven but honest. The sound bounces off stone, returns with more confidence. You realize music doesn't need perfection, it just needs witnesses. The air smells of smoke and excitement. The baby from nights before stirs softly, as if the vibration itself soothes it. The song grows bolder, a mix of breath, skin, and instinct. You watch faces soften around you, eyes half closed, bodies swaying unconsciously. In this world of constant caution, this is the first moment that feels safe enough to close your eyes. You try a higher note. It cracks, wavers, then lands clean. Everyone laughs quietly. The laughter sounds like percussion, sincere, rhythmic, contagious. You play again, chasing the sound's echo until it blends into memory. Somewhere deep inside, you feel something shift. Music, you realize, is a mirror for feelings too shy to be named. The song fades naturally. No one decides to stop.
The cave settles back into silence, heavy but gentle. The fire pops, and a shower of sparks rises toward the ceiling like applause from the earth itself. You set the bone flute down carefully, as if it might break the silence it touched again. Someone hums softly after you, repeating the notes they remember. The melody is wrong, but beautiful. It floats upward, wrapping around the smell of smoke and sweat.
You smile, knowing that memory has just become melody's first cousin. Even when the flute is gone, the sound will stay. You lean back against the cool stone, the air buzzing faintly with leftover sound. For the first time, you understand how music and fire are related. They both teach stillness how to move. The night deepens. The rhythm of wind and fire continues outside. You can almost hear the echo of your own notes blending with it, dissolving into the dark. The song was brief, imperfect, but unforgettable. You realize art didn't evolve from survival, it was survival. When you finally close your eyes, you can still hear it. A single note floating endlessly somewhere between the wind and your heartbeat. You know it will outlive you. It already has. The fire burns lower now, almost blue at its edges. The air smells faintly of pine smoke and cool dust. Outside, the sky spreads enormous and clear, a black ocean pierced by thousands of lights. You step out of the cave, the chill wrapping around you like a familiar cloak. The stars look close enough to touch. You reach up once, knowing you won't, but the gesture feels instinctive. Wonder, it seems, is the oldest reflex. You sit on a rock and tilt your head back. The stars don't flicker, they breathe, they blink slowly in waves, a rhythm that feels intentional. Someone sits beside you, silent. Together, you watch the heavens shift. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like spilled ash from some cosmic fire. You can almost smell it, cold and metallic, a universe still cooling. Someone points upward, their finger tracing a line between three bright stars. Another person nods, murmuring something, a sound, not a word, but it carries meaning, a hunter, maybe, or a spirit. The group leans closer, following the pattern. The story builds itself. This is the birth of mythology, connecting dots that refuse to stay still. The air grows colder. You pull your fur tighter, your breath rising in thin clouds. The stars seem to pulse in rhythm with the fire behind you. It's hard not to believe they're alive. You whisper to yourself, wondering if the dead climb up there when the world grows too small for them. You smile softly. That thought feels older than language. The fire pops behind you, reminding you that warmth still belongs to the living. You turn slightly, seeing the glow of orange against black sky. Fire and stars, the same color, just different distances. You realize your ancestors might have looked at the sky and seen family portraits. Everything that burned must have been related. Someone begins to hum again, low and steady. The sound rises, carrying through the air like wind, disguised as music. You feel your pulse slow, syncing with it. Around you, others lift their eyes to the stars. Their faces glow faintly in the firelight, half earth, half heaven. You understand suddenly that the first religion wasn't worship, it was gratitude for distance. A shooting star cuts across the sky. The group gasps quietly, laughter and fear tangled in one breath. The streak fades, leaving only afterglow. You whisper something like a wish, though wishing hasn't been invented yet. The idea feels natural. Hope and fire share the same vocabulary. Hours pass without movement. The The stars shift position so slowly that time feels circular. Someone falls asleep beside you, their head resting on your shoulder. You don't move. The weight feels like a promise to keep looking up, to keep inventing meaning until it feels true. When dawn finally creeps in, the stars fade one by one, dissolving into light. The fire has died behind you, smoke curling lazily into the pale sky. You stand, stretching your cold limbs, feeling both small and infinite. The smell of ash mixes with morning dew. You realize that curiosity itself is sacred. It's the only thing that's ever pulled humanity forward. You turn back toward the cave. The walls inside still hold echoes of your song, your drawings, your breath. The world is changing, and you're learning to notice. That's enough. And as the sun rises soft gold on wet stone, you understand the quiet truth that will outlast every civilization. Before we built cities, we built stories. Before we prayed, we pointed. And long before we named the stars, we already knew they were listening. The valley is asleep. The air tastes faintly of ash and cold grass. The fire has burned itself into a memory, just a faint orange breath beneath a skin of grey ash. You sit beside it, wrapped in fur still warm from your body, eyes half open but not focused. The silence here isn't empty, it's full. Every breath, every heartbeat, every rustle of wind sounds like the world remembering its own name. You stretch your hands toward the dying coals. They glow dimly, pulsing like embers of thought refusing to fade. Smoke rises in thin ribbons, curling toward a sky that no longer feels dangerous. The moon hangs above you, enormous and silver, spilling light that feels more like forgiveness than brightness. You breathe slowly, your ribs creaking softly, your mind empty except for warmth. Behind you, others sleep. You can hear them shift occasionally, bones against stone, a faint sigh, a dream escaping. The sound blends with the steady hum of insects and the quiet movement of air through leaves. You realize that this, not fire or speech, was the first music of peace, the symphony of nothing happening. Your body feels heavy, but in a pleasant way, as though gravity itself were a blanket. You remember the hunts, the storms, the fear, and realize how brief they all seem from this stillness. Survival always feels eternal until it's over. What remains afterward is just breathing, and that, too, is a form of victory. You pick up a small stone near your foot, smooth and cool. You turn it in your hand, feeling its texture, its quiet certainty. You wonder how many times someone else might have held it before you, centuries apart, joined only by touch. Continuity, it seems, doesn't need memory, just repetition. The air grows colder. You pull the fur closer, listening to the sound of your own heartbeat echoing softly in your ears. The rhythm is slow, predictable, grounding. You imagine your pulse syncing with the world's, the steady throb of existence beneath everything. You realize you've stopped waiting for meaning. Peace, you think, is just curiosity that finally fell asleep. A breeze moves through the camp, lifting ashes into the air. They drift, glinting faintly in moonlight like tiny spirits set free. You watch them rise, dissolve, vanish. It feels less like loss and more like translation. Everything that burns eventually learns to float. You close your eyes, letting the world blur. The smells, smoke, fur, soil, wrap around you like a story you've heard too many times to fear. The ground beneath you is solid and forgiving. You let yourself lean into it, becoming heavier, quieter, older. The night stretches on. The moon slides slowly westward, the stars dimming just enough to make you aware of time again. You realize that dawn is coming, but it no longer feels like an interruption. It feels like the next line in a song that never truly ends. You smile faintly, half asleep. For the first time, the silence doesn't feel like something you're surviving. It feels like something you've earned. And when you finally drift into sleep, the last thing you hear isn't sound. It's stillness returning home. The air smells different when it rains, colder, cleaner, like the earth itself has exhaled. The cave mouth glows faintly with reflected light as droplets fall steady and slow, echoing off the stone like a heartbeat turned outward. You lie on your side near the fire, half covered in fur, eyes tracing the flicker of light on the ceiling. The rhythm of rain is hypnotic. It teaches patience better than hunger ever could. Each drop outside carries its own sound, some deep, some soft, some distant. Together they form a pulse that feels ancient, inevitable. You listen until the noise becomes invisible. This, you realize, is what peace has always sounded like: movement without direction. The fire beside you hisses when a stray drop lands in it. The smell of steam mingles with smoke, sweet and mineral. You can almost taste it, the flavor of survival turned calm. You shift slightly, your back brushing the cave wall. The stone is cool and reassuring, like a hand pressed against your shoulder, reminding you that you're real. Someone nearby breathes softly in sleep. Another murmurs something wordless. The firelight paints their faces gold and shadow. You notice the way their expressions soften completely, the harshness of waking life erased. It strikes you that sleep was probably the first form of trust. You close your eyes, mimicking them, pretending at first, then genuinely falling inward. Time loses its edges. The rain continues, the fire burns smaller, the air thickens with warmth and smoke. You drift somewhere between thought and dream. In this space, memories lose sequence. The mammoth hunts, the songs, the paintings, they all overlap until you can't tell which came first. History feels circular, like weather. You dream faintly of water dripping through stone for centuries, carving rivers underground, whispering stories no one will ever hear. You realize the earth has its own patience. It doesn't rush to be understood. It waits, eroding slowly, reshaping everything it touches. Maybe wisdom was never about knowing, it was about weathering. A louder crack of thunder rolls across the valley, echoing through the cave. The sound doesn't startle you, it settles you. There's something comforting in being reminded of how small you are compared to noise that doesn't care who listens. You smile without meaning to. The fire finally collapses into coals. The glow flickers across the wet walls, making the cave look alive, breathing, watching. You stretch your arm out toward the fading warmth and whisper something half-formed, maybe a thought, maybe a prayer. The air doesn't answer, but it holds the sound gently, like an animal unwilling to wake. The rain begins to soften, becoming drizzle, then mist. The sound fades to nothing, leaving only the dripping from the roof of the cave. Each drop lands in the same hollow stone, the rhythm steady, eternal. You realize that everything alive seeks rhythm, and when it finds it, it calls it peace. You exhale, long and slow, the smell of smoke leaving your lungs. Sleep comes quietly, folding itself around you like a familiar blanket. Outside, the earth breathes again, ready for morning. And somewhere, in the soft static between rain and silence, the universe whispers the same lesson it's taught since the beginning, that rest isn't the end of survival, it's its reward. The soil beneath you feels warm tonight, even though the air is cold. You lie flat on your back, palms pressed to the ground, feeling faint tremors moving through it. Footsteps, shifting roots, maybe water far below. The sound isn't really sound, it's vibration, ancient and slow. The earth has been murmuring like this since before you learned to stand. You realize, with a strange calm, that you've always been lying on a sleeping giant. The scent of dirt is thick and sweet. You breathe it in, heavy as memory, soft as forgiveness. Somewhere in that smell hides the trace of everything that's ever died and turned back into soil. It's not decay, it's conversation. You feel your pulse sinking to it, the slow rhythm of things that don't need to hurry to exist. You close your eyes. The world fades into layers of pressure and silence. You can feel roots brushing against stone, worms twisting through unseen tunnels, rainwater creeping deeper. The entire ground is alive, a slow heartbeat beneath your spine. For the first time, you understand that stillness is only movement you can't perceive. Your hand moves slightly, fingers digging into soil. The texture is cool, grainy, reassuring. You find a small pebble and roll it between your fingers. It's smooth, perfect. You imagine it has been shaped for centuries, passing through rivers, storms and silence, until it found your hand. Continuity, you realize, doesn't need memory, just persistence. A breeze slides through the grass above, the sound soft and dry. You picture the wind bending each blade one by one, whispering the same word it's said since creation. Again. You inhale deeply, and that word settles into your chest. You realize nature never promises, it just repeats. When you open your eyes again, the night sky looks closer, as though the stars are leaning in to listen. You whisper something, not a word, just breath given direction. The sound sinks into the soil, vanishing instantly. But something in you feels lighter, as though the world nodded back. You smile faintly. It's a strange thought, that the planet hears every sigh, every whisper, every quiet confession of the living. Maybe that's what gravity really is. The earth holding you closer every time you try to let go. You close your eyes again, pressing your ear to the ground. The hum is still there, steady and deep. It feels like being held by something infinite. The boundary between body and world begins to blur. You stop being a person and start being part of temperature, vibration, pulse. The smell of smoke drifts faintly from the fire behind you, mixing with the scent of grass and soil. You exhale, letting the moment dissolve. For the first time, you're not trying to survive the world, you're listening to it breathe. And when you finally drift into sleep, the earth continues whispering, patient and endless, saying the same thing it's always said, you're home. The night is softer now, the fire has burned to coals, red eyes glowing faintly through ash. Around you, the others sleep, curled, still, peaceful. You lie on your back, eyes half open, watching smoke curl upward. The shadows on the cave ceiling move gently, forming shapes that change with each flicker of light. You see animals, faces, mountains, clouds. all drifting in slow, hypnotic rhythm. You blink, and they move again. You're not awake, but not asleep either. This is where dreams were born. The smell of ash and fir fills your lungs. The cave feels warm, almost too warm. Your thoughts begin to drift, images folding into one another. You see a herd of bison running through stars, rivers made of fire, hands glowing in the dark. None of it frightens you. Dreaming feels like visiting another version of memory, one that doesn't care about truth. Your breathing slows. The shadows on the walls seem to pulse in time with it. They stretch and fade, then return, whispering shapes across stone. You realize the human mind has always been a cave, dark, echoing, filled with flickering light. And what you're watching now is the first movie ever projected. A faint breeze moves through the entrance, making the shadows dance faster. You close your eyes, and they continue moving inside your head. You smell something faintly sweet, like fruit or honey. Maybe it's a real scent. Maybe it's the mind reminding you of comfort while you drift. The dream deepens. You're standing by a river of light, holding a torch that doesn't burn. The water reflects the stars perfectly. You drop a pebble, and instead of ripples, you see faces, ancestors, animals, people you haven't met yet. They smile, silent and patient. You understand then that dreams aren't escape, they're translation. You reach out toward one of the faces, but your hand passes through light. The sensation is cool and electric, like touching fog. You laugh softly. Sound doesn't echo here, it folds inward, like breathing made visible. For a moment, you forget what waking feels like. Somewhere far away, thunder rolls. The noise blends with your heartbeat, slow and hollow. You drift between the two worlds effortlessly. The line separating them feels unnecessary now. Consciousness, you realize, was just a temporary habit. When you finally open your eyes, the fire has died completely. The cave is dim, lit only by starlight sneaking through cracks. The air smells wet, ancient, kind. You feel calm, heavy, almost transparent. The dream lingers like mist. You can still taste it on the edge of thought. You close your eyes again, smiling faintly. Dreams, you think, were humanity's first form of travel. And sleep, the only place where the past and the future shared a bed. Dawn comes quietly, without color at first. Just a slow softening of the dark. You feel it before you see it. The air turning thinner, lighter, touched with the chill that only morning carries. The smell of smoke still lingers from the night before, faint and sweet, mixed with the damp scent of earth and dew. You open your eyes halfway, not ready to wake, but curious to see what light looks like when it's still half asleep. The fire is nothing more than a black circle now, grey ash breathing faint trails of warmth. A single ember glows deep within it, pulsing like a memory refusing to die. You crawl closer, cupping your hands around it, feeling its faint heat on your palms. It feels fragile, alive, tired. You blow gently, and the orange light brightens for a moment before sinking again. Everything alive eventually learns this rhythm: flame, heart, breath. Outside the cave, the sky is pale grey. Mist clings to the trees, their silhouettes soft and ghost-like. You hear a bird somewhere, singing an uncertain note, as if testing whether the world is still listening. You smile faintly. It's strange how morning always feels like forgiveness, even when you haven't done anything wrong. You sit cross-legged by the ember, rubbing your arms against the cold. The fur you sleep in smells faintly of smoke, skin, and something you can't name, maybe time. You close your eyes and listen to the sounds returning. Water dripping, the slow stretching of wood, distant footsteps of animals beginning their day. The world has a way of healing itself each morning, one sound at a time. You add a small stick to the ember, then another. For a moment, nothing happens. Then a whisper of flame licks upward, pale and trembling. You exhale in relief, though no one else is awake to see it. Keeping the fire alive feels like keeping meaning alive. You wonder how many mornings looked exactly like this before yours. Thousands, maybe millions. The thought makes you feel both insignificant and infinite. The others begin to stir. You hear quiet yawn, the rustle of hides, the sound of someone stretching, a few soft grunts, then silence again. Mornings don't need conversation, they need continuity. You look around at the faint light glowing on faces, eyes still half closed, hair tangled from sleep. Everyone looks softer in morning light. The night strips people down to essence, and dawn forgives them for it. A breeze slips through the cave mouth, carrying the smell of wet grass and cold stone. You watch the smoke rise and drift out, vanishing into daylight. For a second, you think about how many things disappear like that: fires, names, thoughts. And yet, somehow, the pattern remains. You realize that memory isn't meant to preserve, it's meant to remind. You blow on the flame again, gently, and it grows brighter. You hold your hands over it, palms facing down, feeling the warmth return. There's comfort in watching something fragile recover. Maybe that's what hope has always been: maintenance disguised as faith. The mist outside begins to lift. The first rays of sun touch the ground near your feet. You stretch, stand, breathe. The fire flickers higher. Around you, the others rise slowly, one by one, like seeds remembering how to open. The day begins, not with noise, but with light learning where to land. You look once more at the ember, now fully reborn, glowing strong again. You smile quietly, almost proud. You understand now that every morning is just the night remembering what warmth feels like. And for a brief, perfect moment, so do you. The sun climbs higher, golden and cold. The shadows it casts stretch long across the grass, bending around rocks and bodies like slow rivers of grey. You walk barefoot toward the stream, feeling dew cling to your toes, cold and alive. The air smells of water and smoke, and the faint sweetness of crushed leaves. Each step feels ancient, deliberate. You realize that walking forward has always been humanity's favorite ritual. You kneel by the stream and touch the surface. The water is icy, clear, alive with small flashes of light. You cup it in your hands, drink, then watch as the ripples spread outward. The surface reflects the sky, your face, the trees, everything, briefly, before returning to stillness. It feels like watching memory form and vanish in the same breath. You sit on a smooth rock, letting the sun warm your shoulders. Across the clearing, the others gather. Some cleaning tools, some laughing quietly, some still waking. The scene feels familiar in a way that doesn't belong to you. You've seen it before, or something like it, countless times in countless mornings. Repetition doesn't make it dull. It makes it sacred. You look at your hands, rough and scarred. Each mark tells a story, though none of them are written. You trace a faint cut along your palm, remembering its cause vaguely: a sharp rock, a hunt, a slip. It's strange how the body remembers what the mind forgets. Maybe that's why aging exists. To store memories in flesh once language grows too full. The wind shifts and shadows move across the grass, slowly chasing the sun. You notice how each hour carves a new pattern on the ground. For the first time, you understand the concept of before and after. The idea of time doesn't arrive with clocks, it arrives with sunlight. You smile faintly, because knowing what later means also teaches you what gone means. You pick up a stick and draw lines in the dirt, one for each sunrise you remember. The marks are uneven, messy, human, but they feel right. You've just invented memory outside the mind. The earth itself now keeps count. You sit back and look at the lines. They look meaningless, yet comforting. Proof that you've existed for more than a moment. The sound of laughter drifts through the air, low and musical. You glance over and see two people sitting by the fire, sharing fruit. Their joy looks small and perfect, framed by light and shadow. You realize that time isn't cruel, it's simply honest. It shows you what remains worth repeating. You dip your hand back into the water, the cold biting but gentle. The ripples stretch again, carrying your reflection further downstream. You watch it fade, then return in pieces when the current bends. For the first time, the word forever makes sense, not as endlessness, but as return. The wind softens. You look up, eyes tracing a bird gliding overhead. Its shadow crosses your chest, then disappears. You exhale slowly, watching it vanish into distance. There's peace in realizing the world doesn't notice you, but still includes you. And as you rise to leave, your shadow stretches before you, tall and elongated. It moves as you move, quiet and loyal. You follow it without thinking, because that's what time has always asked of the living. To walk gently in the company of what will one day outlast them. The afternoon fades slowly, like a long breath leaving the body of the world. The light softens from gold to amber, from amber to grey. The air grows cooler, carrying the scent of moss, river water, and distant smoke. You sit on a slope overlooking the valley, knees drawn to your chest, watching the day dissolve in silence. It's the same sun that rose this morning, but it feels different now. Older, slower, kind, as if tired of being looked at. The shadows stretch long again, touching one another until the land becomes a single shade of blue. Somewhere below, you can hear the faint call of a bird settling for the night. The sound echoes once, twice, then fades. Even the wind moves gentler now, brushing your hair instead of pulling it. This is how the world tells you to rest, by lowering its voice. You return to the cave. The familiar smell greets you: smoke, ash, fur, stone. Someone is feeding the fire back to life. The sparks rise eagerly, each one bursting like a tiny sun that refuses extinction. You crouch beside it, holding your hands to the new warmth. The glow paints the walls orange and gold again, the drawings flickering like memories rehearsing themselves for another night. You toss in another branch. The flames bend, twist, then settle. You can hear them whisper against the wood, each crack a quiet punctuation. It's strange how something so fierce can sound like comfort. You understand now that fire isn't a thing, it's a rhythm, a visible heartbeat the world lent you for the night. Outside, the last light disappears behind the ridge. Stars return one by one, shy at first, then bold. You step out briefly, feeling the cool air on your skin. The smell of pine and smoke mingles in the breeze. The sky feels lower tonight, intimate, as though the stars are leaning closer to see what you'll do next. You smile, whisper something small to them, a secret, a gratitude, a hope, and step back inside. The group gathers slowly. Some eat quietly, others sit in thought. The child from before plays with a carved bone, its shadow stretching and shrinking with each flicker of flame. The sight fills you with warmth. It's proof that continuity isn't built with stone or law, but with small moments repeated enough to feel eternal. The cave grows warmer as night deepens. The walls breathe light. The faces around you soften. You realize how many times this has happened. Dusk, fire, faces, silence. It's not monotony, it's prayer through repetition. Humans have never needed temples. They've always built them from routine. A spark jumps suddenly, landing on your arm. You flinch, then laugh quietly. The small pain fades fast, leaving only warmth. You think about how life feels the same way, brief burns followed by memory pretending to be scar. You trace the spot gently and let it go. The night outside grows darker, the stars sharper. The fire crackles louder, then steadies. You lie down on the cool ground, one arm under your head, watching the light dance across the ceiling. The shapes blur until they look like constellations of your own making. Your eyelids grow heavy. The warmth of the fire, the scent of wood and smoke, the faint hum of sleeping breath, they weave together until sound itself becomes blanket. You exhale slowly, sinking into it. Dusk has returned not as ending, but as welcome. And just before sleep takes you, you realize fire and stars are the same story told in two directions. One falling, one rising, both teaching you how to glow without lasting forever. The fire has burned low again. Only the occasional crack interrupts the stillness. The cave glows faintly, walls painted red by the last surviving coals. You're alone awake, sitting near the entrance, watching darkness spill into light like ink dissolving in water. The air outside is colder than before. You pull your fur tighter and listen. Even silence has its layers, wind far off, water somewhere, breath close by. You step out carefully. The ground is cool and damp, the sky stretched wide and full. Clouds drift slowly, revealing stars that look like sparks suspended in eternal pause. You tilt your head back, feeling the air fill your lungs. It tastes of smoke, salt, and something clean. The world feels enormous again, but less like a threat, and more like a room you finally recognize. You whisper into the air, unsure what you're saying. Maybe it's a memory, maybe a thank you. The sound escapes and vanishes instantly. Still, you swear you hear something answer. Not a voice, not an echo, but recognition. It feels as if the night understood you, as if it's been listening all along. You smile, quietly. You realize names were never invented. They were overheard. You walk a few steps into the open field. The grass brushes your legs softly, whispering against your skin. Each step feels gentle, sacred. The moon casts a long shadow before you, stretching far and thin. You stop and stare at it, the dark twin that follows every movement without judgment. You raise your hand slowly, and it does the same. You laugh softly. Even alone, you've never really been solitary. The wind picks up, swirling around you. You close your eyes, letting it push through your hair, over your face, down your arms. It feels like language before language, touch as dialogue. You stand still, breathing deeply, realizing that maybe existence isn't about being noticed. Maybe it's about being allowed. Behind you, the cave flickers faintly with light. The warmth glows through the entrance like a pulse. You turn and look one last time. The sleeping bodies, the faint orange shimmer, the drawings on stone that will outlive you all. You feel no sadness, only awe. Permanence, you realize, doesn't need witnesses. You kneel, press your palm against the ground. The soil is cool and steady beneath your hand. You whisper your name, or the sound that means you, whatever it is. The earth receives it without ceremony. The wind moves softly, carrying it away, breaking it into particles of air and dust. Somewhere, perhaps, the night keeps it. You stay like that for a while, hand on ground, eyes on stars. Your body feels heavy, but your thoughts feel light, drifting upward like smoke. Time loses its edges again. You are not here, or then, or after. You're just part of the quiet machinery that turns dark into dawn. The first hint of morning touches the horizon, pale blue cutting through black. You feel warmth before you see it. You close your eyes, smiling. You understand something final and soft. No one survives the night, but everyone belongs to it. And as the wind carries the last of your breath into the coming light, the world learns your name not as sound, but as silence that remembered to listen back. The morning arrives like a whisper. Pale light slips through the cave mouth, brushing gently over ash, fur, and stone. The air smells of damp earth and smoke, familiar, forgiving. You open your eyes slowly, the world returning one color at a time. The fire is gone, but its warmth still lingers in the ground beneath you, a quiet reminder that heat doesn't disappear. It just learns new shapes. You sit up, listening. Nothing rushes. Every sound feels patient, the drip of water from the ceiling, the soft rustle of someone turning in sleep, the low hum of wind pushing through the valley. You stretch your fingers, your neck, your thoughts. The silence isn't heavy, it's textured, layered, alive. It's the kind that listens back. The drawings on the wall catch the first beam of sunlight. They glow faintly, red and gold. Animals mid-run, hands mid-gesture. You trace one with your fingertip. The stone feels cool, ancient, indifferent, but also aware, as though it remembers every touch that's ever tried to explain being alive. You realize that time doesn't erase, it absorbs. You've never been a visitor here, you've always been continuation. Outside, the grass glistens with dew. The world smells fresh, rinsed. Mist hangs over the river, moving like breath exhaled by something enormous. You walk slowly toward it, each step soft, deliberate, unhurried. Your feet sink slightly into the wet soil. You can feel the pulse of the earth beneath, the same rhythm that's carried every heartbeat, every footstep, every dawn since the beginning. Continuity disguised as calm. You kneel by the water's edge. Your reflection looks older than you remember, softened by light and motion. The face staring back isn't a person, it's a story mid-sentence. You reach down and touch it, your fingertips breaking the image apart. The ripples spread outward, quiet and confident. You smile. You realize the reflection was never meant to last, only to remind you that you existed long enough to disturb the surface. Behind you, the cave breathes out its last curl of smoke. The scent drifts past your shoulder, mingling with morning air. You take one final deep breath, filling your lungs with everything: the smoke, the mist, the cold, the taste of distance, and exhale slowly. The world accepts it without question. That's what it has always done. Receive what you release, return it softer. You stand, turning your face toward the sun. It rises slow, the light golden and kind, spilling across the land like a promise the earth never stopped keeping. For a moment, everything stands still. Your breath, your thoughts, even the birds waiting to sing. This is what peace actually feels like, not perfection, but permission. You look once more at the horizon, the endless field, the bending trees, the sky pulling itself open. The same light that touched the first humans touches you now, and will touch countless others long after. The thought doesn't feel lonely. It feels like belonging on a scale too wide to measure. You take a step forward, your shadow falling gently behind. The ground is cool beneath your feet, damp and alive. You realize that nothing you've built, painted, or feared was ever meant to last. Only the warmth you leave behind travels on, in soil, in smoke, in story. And as you walk, the wind rises softly, brushing against your face. It smells like ash, grass, and distance, the scent of something ending exactly where it should. You smile again, eyes half closed, letting it pass through you. The world doesn't remember names. It remembers the feeling of being touched gently. So you keep walking, quiet and small, your breath sinking with the morning, your steps erasing themselves as you go. The light follows you, slow and kind, folding you into the rhythm that has never stopped repeating. Fire, shadow, silence, dawn. And somewhere far behind, deep in the cave, one ember glows a little longer. Not because it needs to, but because every ending deserves a little warmth left in it.